In this video, we'll delve into the character of Patrick Bateman as depicted in the film American Psycho. Patrick is a character designed to shock and terrify, highlighting the unsettling notion that someone like him could be right beside you, even as you watch. He embodies the classic idea of a deceptive figure, a wolf in sheep's clothing. While the film portrays him committing gruesome acts that position him as a twisted killer, his character possesses layers beyond initial appearances. Throughout the movie, numerous moments arise that raise perplexing questions. Our objective is to unravel the puzzle that is Patrick Bateman, illuminating some of the enigmatic aspects surrounding his persona. Although movies often carry underlying themes, our focus will be primarily on deciphering Patrick himself, rather than dissecting his symbolic significance. On first impression, Patrick appears quite ordinary, at least for his time and context. He's a well-to-do, attractive yuppie from the flashy 80s era. His manner of speaking might come across as sophisticated, but given his social circle, it's not particularly surprising. He maintains a commendable physique and displays an exaggerated concern for his appearance and health. Educated, prosperous, and socially adept, Patrick seamlessly fits the profile of the affable guy next door. It's important to consider that Patrick likely inherited his privileged lifestyle. As disclosed by Evelyn in the film, Patrick's father essentially controls the company where he works. The only peculiar aspect of Patrick pertains to his conduct when interacting with friends and colleagues. It's subtle, yet there's an uncanny quality to his demeanor during these interactions. It's at these moments that we gain a glimpse into the notion that much of his behavior and words around these individuals are artificial. This notion finds support in his initial monologue. He openly states that his public persona is a meticulously crafted facade, an expertly sculpted mask designed to mimic a typical human being. In Patrick's words, there exists an idea of a Patrick Bateman, some form of abstraction, but there is no real me, only an entity, something illusory. Despite his ability to simulate warmth and relate to his peers' experiences, he's essentially absent. As the title implies, this self-description serves as our initial introduction to the myriad traits that point to Patrick's psychopathic nature. Psychopathy entails specific attributes, and not all of them need to be present simultaneously. For Patrick, his lack of empathy, reckless conduct, absence of remorse, towering ego, and habitual deceit position him within this classification. While these traits might not manifest concurrently, they surface intermittently throughout the film. From this monologue, it becomes evident that Patrick perceives himself as a hollow entity. His self-description as an abstraction and entity implies a perpetual disconnection from his inner self. In a scene with Evelyn, their argument about a potential wedding exposes Patrick's authentic incentive for persevering in a job he detests. He has the desire to fit in. Another internal monologue further uncovers the void within him. Patrick reveals, "I have all the characteristics of a human being: blood, flesh, skin, hair, but not a single, clear, identifiable emotion, except for greed and disgust. Something horrible is happening inside of me and I don't know why. My nightly bloodlust has overflown into my days." These three instances showcase a profound view into Patrick's character, or rather, his absence of certain traits. He does not possess normal human emotion, he is a hollow shell void of feelings. While he may believe he's devoid of substance, there's an element lurking within, a malevolent force concealed beneath his human veneer. This force emerges given the opportunity, driven by greed and an appetite for violence, or when his cravings spiral beyond containment within the guise of Patrick. In a sense, we can discern two sides to Patrick: the carefully crafted outer appearance and the basic instinct. His basic instinct embodies greed, disgust, and envy, while his external persona showcases the synthetic emotions he employs to function within society. His indifference towards human life, his ceaseless quest for dominance among his peers, and his insatiable yearnings for both carnal desires and brutality constitute the crux of his primary emotions. His inclination for murder springs from various sources. Disgust, as demonstrated in the alley with the homeless man; bloodlust, evidenced by the murder of several women; or jealous fury, as evidenced in the case of Paul Allen. He admits to nearly shedding tears over table arrangements and experiencing near breakdowns when his business card pales in comparison to Paul Allen's. He showcases extreme responses to apparently trivial circumstances. When alone, his television airs pornography or gruesome content, such as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which might reference his mention of Ed Gein, an influence on the creation of Leatherface. Patrick's one unambiguous sign of sanity is his apparent love for music. While he may use this affinity to impress his acquaintances, his genuine ardor for music is evident. He even makes socially astute and politically correct remarks that imply a compassionate facet, particularly when discussing music. This suggests that beneath his materialistic pursuits and bloodthirst, a compassionate side of Patrick may exist. However, we must not be misled. Patrick is far from virtuous. He inflicts harm and death upon others without remorse. The sole instance he seemingly displays a hint of regret is when he leaves a voicemail for his lawyer. He stammers through the conversation, prompting us to question if authentic guilt surfaces. However, his concern is less about remorse and more about the fear of getting caught. He briefly acknowledges being a pretty sick guy, but even this admission feels lukewarm. So, what do these observations collectively imply about Patrick? In terms of moral classification, he likely falls in a gray area. His intentional acts of harm, such as the murders of Paul Allen, the unidentified woman, and the homeless man, are unequivocally malevolent. Yet, he grapples with a mental disorder, and while his disturbing delusions cannot be deemed evil, they arise from a schizophrenic psyche. Crucially, everyone experiences disagreeable thoughts at some point, but it's the actions that emerge from these thoughts that define moral standing. Ultimately, Patrick is an immensely disturbed psychopath. His lack of identity compels him to conform to a world where consumerism overshadows humanity. He nurtures profound desires for murder, and whatever traces of humanity he retains remain buried beneath layers of emotional disconnection. Perhaps his environment plays a role in shaping him, and in an alternate reality, he might have suppressed his darkest inclinations. Regardless, the Patrick we encounter is undeniably an ominous, unpredictable presence, an unambiguous reminder of how little we can genuinely fathom about an individual's inner self. Thank you for joining me in this episode. Please feel free to share your thoughts on Patrick in the comments below, and if you have any suggestions for future topics in this series, tell me.